Welcome to Wicked Shizuku's Reviews, bringing you a southern perspective on books, movies, music, and much, much more. Stick around for a while, you just might hear something wicked. And welcome back to Wicked Shizuku's Reviews, episode 30, and this is a Friday playlist. So, today we are going to be perusing through a little bit of the new book of Etiquette and no Shakespeare today. Not really feeling up to humor right now. So, I'm going to jump right into it. So, we will be picking up and we are still within the outline. And today we are going to get to the third section, hopefully. The French system of chivalry. France has probably had a greater influence upon our etiquette than any other country. It was in France during the 11th century that the great medieval social system, known as chivalry, was founded. This system revolutionized the manners, morals, tastes, amusements, and ethics of France. It gradually permeated to the social fabric of England and made its influence felt throughout Europe. The system of knight-errantry of chivalry was originated by some nobles of the 11th century who had the good grace to be ashamed of their lives of brigandage. According to their plan, every boy of noble birth was apprenticed at the age of 7 to some great lord to serve him as page and trained in knighthood. He was taught honor, chivalry, truth, refinement. The very highest ideals were inculcated in him. Courtliness and chivalry began in England at about the time of Richard Coeur de Lion, 1189 to 99. England borrowed its etiquette from France, and there were gay tournaments, rich banquets, elaborate court functions. Spain was not far behind, and in Italy we find the same social tendency. With the decay of feudalism, we discover a movement that reminds us of the earlier French system of chivalry, but which applies this time to girls instead of boys. It became customary to send young girls from the homes of wealthy burghers to the castles of high nobles. This was to enable them to acquire poise and polish, to make them familiar with the etiquette of the aristocracy. Stretching between the 12th and 15th centuries is the period familiarly known as the Middle Ages. It is the period of medievalism, a period with its own peculiar ideas, practices, and expressions. Spain, during this period, achieved and involved an extreme etiquette. Men and women ceased to be human beings with wills and became machines of reverence. Even the beggar asked each morning of his companion beggar, "Signor, has your courtesy taken his chocolate?" It is to the Spain of this period that we trace the extravagant and elaborate forms of courtesy that honeycomb fashionable society. The court etiquette of this country was complicated to the extreme, and precedence in public affairs was a matter of life and death. To enter a room in advance of someone higher in rank was the sin unpardonable. France of the same period was a land of chivalry, elegance, politeness, fine manners. The ideals and courtesies that began in the time of Henry I remained until the decline of medievalism toward the close of the 14th century. England of this era was a country of caste and pronounced caste restrictions. Court functions were elaborate but dull and formal, with none of the brilliance of the French court. From the Reformation onward, at the dawn of the 15th century, there was emerging in Italy an influence that was to make itself felt throughout Europe. It was a successor to the chivalry that had disappeared, a rebirth of classic ideals and practices. We refer to the Renaissance, which was born and nurtured in Italy, but which quickly found its way into France and England. Social, political, and religious life responded to this new influence. It was during the 15th century also that the middle class came into power. The death knell of feudalism had sounded, and chivalry had fallen into decadence. Towns and nations were being born. It was a period of great social and political upheavals, known in history as the Reformation. At the beginning of the Reformation, feudalism had not yet been completely conquered. There were mighty forces throughout the social life of Europe struggling for mastery. The nobility, joining the Crusaders, had left their estates in the hands of merchant princes who had accepted the property as security for money expended in preparing the crusading outfits. These merchants, as a consequence, became the ruling class during the early period of the Reformation. There was a great impetus given to commerce and manufacturing. Various Mediterranean cities became the western termini of the long voyage from the east, points for the distribution of manufactured goods to the local trade centers. Venice and Genoa were two of the most important trading centers of that time. Several important inventions played a large part in the industrial and political transformations that were now taking place. The compass increased the possibility for navigation. The astrolabe and the first crude firearms made their appearance. Astrolabe. At this period also came the revolutionary invention of printing with movable types, and the manufacture of paper for the first time on a commercial scale. It is clear that these developments were radically changing the social condition of the masses. Great cities were beginning to flourish, trade was being extended, and the people were beginning to learn about other countries in their own. The effect upon the habits and customs of everyday life was tremendous. From this period onward, we find in Europe a fairly stable condition of etiquette. There were wars and revolutions that plunged nations temporarily into barbarism. There were magnificent courts, like those of Louis XIV of France and Charles I of England, that greatly influenced the manners and customs of people. But on the whole, it was the moneyed class that dominated, adding frills and fashions to the simple etiquette that had come down to them through the ages. So And that will be the conclusion of episode 30. And I might be making one up tonight for a Monday playlist read. Not sure about that. Not feeling too hot right now, but I wanted to get that out. Um, so I hope you have a good evening. If you found that informative or you liked it, please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions about any of the playlists, please leave down in the comment section below your questions, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And I hope you have a pleasant evening. Good night.